Lyra stood in front of the high court of Theros, her legs shaking. She was young, barely 20 cycles old. Her long silver hair fell over her shoulders like a river of moonlight, but it was dusty and tangled today.
Out.
2 guards held her arms tightly. As she stared up at the council of elders, their faces showed no pity. "You have broken the law of silence," the head elder said in a cold voice. His robe shimmered with purple threads of power, marking his high rank. "You spoke against our leader and inspired others to question him. Do you understand your crime, Lyra?" She kept her gaze down, her heart beating so fast she felt dizzy. She did not regret what she had done. Their leader was cruel, taking food from the poor and giving it only to his loyal soldiers. He forced young aliens into his personal guard without care for their dreams. Lyra had stood up in the marketplace, shouting for justice. People listened. Some even cheered her bravery. That was why she stood here today, trembling. "Yes," she whispered, her voice small. The elder raised a thin hand. "Then accept your punishment. You will be handed over to a human as payment for our trade agreement. Let them deal with you as they wish." A gasp rippled through the crowd. The punishment was worse than exile or prison. Humans were seen as primitive, violent creatures who hunted other beings for fun. Some said they ate alien flesh. Lyra's stomach twisted with fear, but she kept her back straight. She would not show weakness before them. 2 guards yanked her forward. Chains clinked around her wrists. He pushed her through the dark marble halls and out into the bright sun of the landing bay. A massive cargo ship hovered silently on anti-gravity. Thrusters. Its metal hull was painted white and blue, marked with the words SS Unity in human language. A ramp extended down to the ground. At the bottom of the ramp stood a tall human male. He wore a dark jacket, sturdy boots, and simple gray trousers. His hair was black and cut short, and his eyes were sharp yet calm. Carried no weapons in sight. "That is the human who will take you," the guard sneered in her ear. Lyra stared at him with growing dread. Her legs felt like frozen iron as they forced her down the ramp. The human stepped forward, studying her quietly. She felt his eyes scan her face, her chains. As the guard shoved her towards the human, her heart hammered in terror. She thought he would slap her, pull her hair, or drag her like an animal into his ship. But instead, he simply looked at her calmly and said in a gentle voice, "My name is David Come?" His language was strange to her ears, but she understood enough. And she did not move, frozen in fear. He raised his hand slowly, not to strike, but to reach towards the chain on her wrists. She flinched back, but he only pressed a small device to the lock. The chains clicked open and fell to the floor. The guards looked shocked. One stepped forward. "Human, she is a prisoner. Keep her chained." David turned his dark eyes to the guard. His gaze was calm but sharp, like a blade. "She is not my prisoner. She is my responsibility. Leave." Without waiting for their answer, he placed his hand gently on Lyra's back, guiding her up the ramp. She stumbled, confused. The guards did not stop him. They only looked at each other, unsure, as the ramp closed behind them. Inside the ship, it was warm and bright. Smooth metal walls shone under soft yellow lights. The floor was clean. Lyra stood silently, waiting for his orders, ready to obey so he would not hurt her. But David simply walked ahead and said, "Follow me. You must be hungry." Led her through a short hallway into a small kitchen area. Metal shelves lined the walls, filled with packets of human food. David pressed a few buttons on a machine, and soon a warm smell filled the air, a simple soup of vegetables and noodles. He placed it before her at the small dining table. "Eat," he said. Lyra stared at the steaming bowl. Her stomach ached. With hunger, she wanted to eat, but hesitated. What if it was poisoned to weaken her? Seeing her fear, David sat down opposite her, took a spoon, and ate a mouthful from the same bowl. Then he smiled. "It's safe. Please eat." His smile was not mocking. It was soft, like the gentle touch of sunrise on frozen water. Lyra's eyes burned with sudden tears. She picked up the spoon and tasted it. The warmth spread through her chest, chasing away the cold dread inside her. "Thank you," she whispered in her own language. She doubted he understood, but she wanted to say it. After she finished eating, David stood. "Come, I will show you your room." Her room. He led her down another hallway. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a small but neat bedroom. A simple bed with clean white sheets, a soft blanket, and a small table with a lamp stood by the window. There was even a folded set of clothes and pale blue fabric on the bed. "This is your room now," David said. "You can rest here. Need anything? Press this button." He pointed to a small screen on the wall, and he paused, studying her silent, trembling figure. His eyes softened even more. "You are safe here," he said quietly. "No one will hurt you." He left, closing the door softly behind him. Lyra sank down onto the bed. She ran her hand over the blanket. It felt warm and real under her fingers. Her heart felt so heavy it hurt. She did not understand. Why was he treating her like this? Was it a trick to break her will later? Was he planning to use her kindness against her? Exhausted, she curled up under the blanket. For the first time since her trial, she felt her muscles relax. The last thought before she fell asleep was, maybe humans are not what we were told. When Lyra woke up, she felt confused. For a moment, she thought she was still on Theros, trapped in the cold underground cells. But then she felt the soft blanket around her, smelled the warm air of the ship, and remembered she was on a human ship with David. Slowly, she sat up. Her hair fell over her shoulders like a silver waterfall. She touched the clean blue clothes left for her and decided to change out of her dusty prison robes. The fabric was soft against her skin, and she felt a little more human, or whatever that meant here. The door opened with a soft hiss. David stood there holding a small tray with bread, eggs, and sliced fruit. "I didn't know if you liked these," he said. "Try them. If you want something else, tell me." Lyra took the tray with shaking hands and placed it on the table. Beside her bed, she looked up at him, then down at the food. Her voice came out small. "Why? Are you being kind to me?" David tilted his head, studying her tired silver eyes. "'Cause kindness is free, and because you deserve it."
Is
Didn't understand. On Theros, kindness was weakness. People offered nothing without expecting something in return. But he only gave, and it made her chest feel warm and heavy. After breakfast, David showed her around the ship. It was not a giant warship like Therosian cruisers. It was still big enough to hold supplies, tools, sleeping rooms, a small lab, and a command deck with large windows showing the endless darkness of space. "This is where I fly the ship," he said, sitting in the pilot's chair. "You can sit here if you want." Lyra sat beside him, staring at the stars outside. Her planet was gone from sight now, hidden behind distant suns. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Do you miss your home?" David asked softly. "Yes," she whispered, "but it was not safe there." He nodded slowly. Then he smiled. "Do you want to see Earth?" Lyra turned to him, confused. "Earth?" "Yes, my home world." He pressed a few buttons, and the main screen showed a beautiful blue and green planet spinning slowly under white clouds. Oceans sparkled in sunlight. Vast green forests spread across its lands. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's beautiful." David chuckled.
thank you.
"It is beautiful and peaceful, mostly." She kept staring at the image. On Theros, their forests had died long ago. Poisoned soil, cracked stone deserts, and cold metal cities were all she knew. This blue-green world looked like a dream she once had as a child. Lyra and David spent several peaceful days drifting through space. Each morning, they shared quiet breakfasts, exchanging stories of their childhoods. Lyra described the crystal gardens of Theros, before they wilted, and David spoke of Earth's green parks and gentle rain. She smiled more often than she had in cycles, feeling trust grow like a new sapling in her heart. Yet, somewhere deep inside, she carried a fear that her past would catch up with her. On the 7th day, the ship's alarms rang out in sudden warning. David and Lyra sprang to their feet on the command deck. Red lights flashed, casting long, shadows across walls. David's fingers flew over the console, bringing up a hollow image of an imposing warship behind them. It bore the dark, triangular sigil of Theros' High Council. Its cannons rotated, ready to fire. "They found us," David said quietly. His calm voice held a trace of steel. He turned to Lyra. "Stay here. I will try to talk to them." Lyra's heart pounded. She knew the might of a Therosian warship. Their guns could tear through metal like paper. She leaped forward, grabbing David's arm. "No," she said firmly. "If you go alone, they might kill you. Let me speak to them." David's eyes softened. "With concern? You could be safe here, but I cannot let them harm you or me. You know their language better than I do. You can try to reason with them." She swallowed hard, nodding. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, steadying her racing pulse. The fear in her chest burned like hot coal, but she also felt determination. For the first time in her life, someone believed in her. She would not let him down. David opened communication channels. Deep, echoing voice crackled through the speakers in Therosian Common. "Human David," it boomed, returned the alien trader. "She's property of the Council. Comply or face destruction." David's face remained calm. He replied, "I will not hand her over. She is under my protection." The response was immediate. Human arrogance. "You threaten our law? You will fire unless she is returned in 1 standard hour." David glanced at Lyra. Her silver eyes shone. With resolve, he stepped back and motioned for her to take the console. Lyra swallowed again, placing her slender fingers on the controls. Clearing her throat, she spoke in the precise, formal tone of her people's language. "Honored Council, I appeal for mercy." Her voice trembled at first, but grew steadier. "I accept my punishment for speaking the truth, but I beg you, do not endanger others. This human has shown me kindness. He treated me with respect. He learned our language, our customs, and he saved my life. By your law, I should return to Theros. I am ready to face any consequence." A tense silence followed. The warship's guns rotated, pointing directly at their hull. The crew behind Lyra watched her nervously as she waited. Time felt stretched thin, like a spider's thread ready to snap. Then the council's voice returned, harsher than before. "You confess guilt. Hand her over at once, or we will destroy you both." Lyra's thoughts raced. She knew the council would kill her for defiance and punish David for sheltering a traitor. Yet she could not watch David risk his life for her. She looked at him, her chest tight with fear and love. He nodded, urging her to continue. Taking another breath, she raised her voice. "If you harm him, you harm the truth as well," she said. "On Theros, truth is the highest value. You claim to uphold our law, but your law silences those who speak for the weak. Do not betray the ideals you claim to protect. Let me go quietly, and you will honor Theros' name. Force him to comply, and you will betray everything this world stands for." Her words echoed in the silent bridge. David placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. He believed in her, and she believed in what she said. The seconds stretched on, the holoscreen flickering between Lyra's determined face and the warship's gaping cannons. Finally, the council spoke. "Human David, your words are bold. You threaten us with truth, yet you offer no proof of your value. Return the traitor, or we risk dishonor." 1 more standard minute remains. Lyra's heart pounded. She scanned the console, looking for any sign of weakening. The warship's shield shimmered like an unbreakable wall. There was no way to fight. Then she spotted a small channel in the communications log. It showed that another Therosian ship had drifted too close to a magnetic storm near the asteroid belt. Its engines were failing. She pointed to the screen. "Look," she cried. "Your fleet vessel is in danger. It drifts over the northern belt. If you fire on us here, you risk friendly fire on your own ship. Your soldiers may be injured before our metal falls." The council's face appeared on the hala, flickering with surprise. They peered at the data readouts. Lyra continued quickly. "Let me return. I'll restore balance between our worlds. Free me, and you remain unharmed. Will not suffer the shame of harming those you claim to protect." Moments passed like hours. The red alert lights stayed fixed on the command deck. Then the council's voice returned, softer than before. Very well, traitor. If you survive the journey back, your fate shall be decided by the High Court. Human, you may depart. But if you are found harboring her again, we will crush you. Relief flooded through Lyra as David cut the connection. He turned and enveloped her in a brief, careful embrace. You were brilliant, he whispered. Saved us both. Lyra's cheeks warmed with both pride and fatigue. She realized that bravery came from the heart, not from weapons. With David by her side, she had found a strength deeper than fear. They set the ship on a new course back toward Theros, her chains now a distant memory. And as the stars moved past their windows, Lyra felt hope stir a new hope that she could change her world by speaking truth and showing kindness, just as David had shown her. The moment the Therosian warship's warning faded, David and Lyra moved with urgent purpose. David's fingers danced over the control panel as he brought up the ship's systems. The cargo vessel trembled under the hum of its engines, but it was fast and nimble compared to the Council's heavy cruiser. Behind him, Lyra unfastened the pouch at her waist and removed two small, human-made EMP grenades devices she had never seen on Theros. David caught one and studied it. These will cut their sensors, he explained, voice low, but firm. We'll blind them long enough to slip away. Lyra nodded, heart pounding. She knew that every second counted. In the time it took to talk, the warship could fire its plasma cannons and shred their hull. But she also trusted David's calm strength. He had faced danger before and survived. He would guide her through this. David opened the cargo bay doors. The vast blackness of space flooded in, dotted with distant stars. The warship drifted a short distance away, its weapons aimed directly at the Unity's hull. David turned to Lyra. Ready? He asked. She took a deep breath and steadied her fear. Ready? He lit the first grenade's fuse. It hissed softly, then he tossed it out of the open bay. The device floated free into space. Moments later, it erupted in a silent flash, sending out a burst of electromagnetic energy. On the holographic screens, they watched as the warship's sensor grid flickered and died. The enemy ship's targeting computer blinked uncertainly. David seized the moment. Full thrusters now. He slammed his fist down on the throttle. The Unity leapt forward like a startled animal, accelerating away from the larger ship. Metal groaned as the engines roared, pushing them out of danger. Lyra gripped the railing, her silver hair streaming behind her like fallen moonlight. Soon, they put enough distance between them that the large warship could not fire without overreaching. But they were not safe yet. The cruiser's backup sensors would come online soon. David needed one more trick. Time for Plan B, he said, pulling Lyra close inside the ship. They hurried to the communications lab, a small room filled with consoles and wires, a place where Lyra felt at home, since it reminded her of the code centers on Theros. Show me the channel logs, David said, pointing to a panel of screens. Lyra sat at the main terminal and typed quickly in her native script. The display shifted between human characters and Therosian glyphs. She scrolled through the ship to ship. Network, until she found the warship's communication frequencies. They reused some code sequences from their courier vessels, she said, but they forgot to change the override protocols. She typed again, weaving a slow pattern of commands that mirrored the Therosian control signatures. Her slender fingers flew over the keys, guided by intuition and her deep understanding of her homeworld's technology. David watched, entranced by her skill. Her eyes shone with concentration. Got it, she whispered after a moment. Sending shutdown. Her finger pressed the final key. In the corridor outside, the Unity shuddered as the signal left the array. On the holographic display of the warship, David saw the ship's thrusters stutter. The cruiser drifted, its engines powering down in confusion. They had struck true. Without its engines, the warship could not follow. Its cannons remained trained, but it could no longer aim precisely. The screens showed a frantic attempt to reboot, but David and Lyra were already halfway to safety. David grinned. You did it. Lyra's cheeks warmed with pride. She had used her people's knowledge to save them both, on Theros. Her people. never dared challenge the warship's might or outsmart their council. But together, she and David had, as the Unity slipped beyond the warship's range. David steered them toward a nearby nebula swirling cloud of pink gas and sparkling ice crystals. The nebula's colors shimmered across their viewports, creating a kaleidoscope of light. David aimed their ship into the haze, trusting its hiding power. They drifted silently into the nebula's embrace. Outside, the warship loomed large, scanning the cosmos in frustration, but its sensors could not penetrate the gas. David adjusted the Unity's course through the glowing mist. Soon, they were out of danger. Lyra leaned against David, her breathing coming in soft, relieved gasps. "Thank you," she said, voice thick with emotion. "You saved us both." He wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "We saved each other," he corrected gently. "I had the grenades. You gave me the code. Together, we were unstoppable." She looked up at him, her silver eyes reflecting the nebula's light. "Together," she echoed. They spent the next hours repairing minor damage and recharging their systems. David cleaned and rearmed the EMP grenades, while Lyra sent a short, secure message to Earth Command, explaining their situation. On Theros, her trial had declared her a traitor. On Earth, David would testify that she was no criminal. She was a brave soul who spoke truth. Later, as they rested in the small lounge, the nebula's glow shining through the windows, Lyra reached out and touched David's hand. On Theros, they said humans were monsters. Your people, your kindness, your courage. It is greater than any star. David squeezed her fingers. On Theros, they said aliens were cruel. But your strength, your wisdom, it teaches me every day. They sat quietly, two friends bound by shared courage. Outside, the nebula's gentle colors shifted and swirled, a silent celebration of their victory. Lyra felt hope stirring in her chest. She had braved fear and doubt, and she had found something more precious than freedom. She had found trust and respect. Tomorrow, they would continue back toward Theros. She would face the High Court again, but this time she would not face it alone. David would stand by her side. Whatever punishment awaited, they could face it together, as the Unity glided deeper through the nebula. Lyra closed her eyes and allowed herself a small, hopeful smile. The future was uncertain, but she knew one thing for sure: with David's humanity and her own courage, they could change the course of two worlds. OD ready with neatly stacked logs. A small kitchen held copper pans and glass jars filled with dried herbs and spices. On a table by the window, fresh fruits and bread awaited. But the most special feature was a room beyond the living area set up just for her, a bright bedroom with soft linens, a desk with notebooks and pens, and shelves filled with plants and clay pots. David watched her explore, his own heart shining with pride. When she finally sat on the edge of the bed, he knelt beside her and offered a silk robe in a gentle green shade. "It's Theros' color of hope," he explained. "For you?" Lyra held the fabric to her chest, tears slipping down her cheeks. She draped the robe over her shoulders. It felt like a promise that kindness could last, that she was safe, and that she was valued. She looked up at David, her silver eyes bright. "You have treated me like a queen," she said softly. "Even when I expected the worst, you showed me the best." David reached out and brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear. "You are a queen, Lyra," he replied. "Not by right of birth, but by who you are, brave, honest, and full of light." That evening they sat by the fireplace. David had prepared a simple dinner of roasted vegetables, grains, and a sweet fruit compote. They ate together, sharing stories of their dreams. Lyra spoke of how she wanted to restore Theros' gardens and build schools where truth was taught. David spoke of his own hopes to create a place where people from different worlds could live in peace. As the fire crackled, Lyra realized that her punishment had become her greatest gift. She had left Theros as a prisoner, but returned with David's friendship, Earth's beauty, and her own renewed courage. She had seen the worst of fear and the best of humanity. Before sleep, David showed her to her room. Soft moonlight filtered through a small window, casting silver patterns on the walls. On the bedside table stood a single rose in a glass vase. Lyra smiled and touched its petals. "Good night, David," she whispered. "Good night."
What?
"My queen," he answered, gently closing the door. Lyra lay on her bed, the silk robe beneath her. She stared at the ceiling, feeling the soft warmth of home. Around her? In that moment, she knew she had found more than safety. She had found respect, love, and a purpose that went beyond punishment or fear. As she drifted to sleep, she thought of Theros with its silent halls and strict laws. And she realized that change had to start with her. She would return one day and speak for those who could not speak. She would bring truth back to her world, just as David had brought kindness to hers. But for now, she was home. Treated like a queen, she closed her eyes and allowed herself to dream of gardens blooming under twin moons, of children learning without fear, and of two worlds where compassion reigned. And deep in her heart a new story began, one written not by force or law, but by the gentle, powerful hands of kindness.